YouTube is packed with some amazing information, but there's also a lot of half information. Creators are giving you tricks, but without the context. So if you end up copying them without understanding, you're going to end up with thin mixes, phase issues, and over compressed tracks. Basically, you just end up fighting your own sound. Mixing isn't about memorizing rules, it's about making decisions based on what the song needs. When I first started mixing, I lived on YouTube videos. If someone said this is the pro way to do something, I done it, no questions asked.
Hit a louder and fuller master with this 4-step mastering chain. Filter out unnecessary top and bottom frequencies using a mid-side EQ. I usually cut off upwards of 200 Hz on the sides, which will focus the bass into the center. And
guess what? My mixes sounded worse and I wasn't improving. So today I'm going to show you 5 mixing mistakes that I made off of YouTube advice, so you don't waste years like I did. So let's start off with overuse of high pass filters and ignoring phase shift issues. When I first started mixing, I thought the key to a clean mix was to high pass near enough everything. And so what I did, I'd be cutting synths, the body of synths and vocals and guitars, anything that had a bit of body to it, I'd remove unknowingly that this is making my mixes sound thin, especially the vocals. So what did I learn? Don't high pass unintentionally. Don't high pass out of habit. High pass only when you hear a problem. And if there is a phase issue, then switch your EQ to a linear phase EQ or natural phase mode. Yeah, I was really messing up my kicks and my bass just by cutting it and then introducing phase issues. So what I like to do now as well is, through watching tutorials from some of the world-class engineers, is instead of using a filter, use a shelf. And that seems to be working, but I do find times that it doesn't do what I need it to do. So I'm trying to use minimal filters, minimal high pass filters, and more shelves. But with linear phase EQs, there's also some issues with latency and pre-ringing, which is a whole nother topic, but it's something that's definitely worth checking out for yourself. So if you thought that mistake was bad, the next thing I was doing is destroying my mixes with compression. Samples that we get from sample packs, they're over compressed, they're already compressed. They don't always need compression, and you can end up ruining the sound because, well, I was ruining my sound, putting more compression on something that didn't need no compression. And there I was, like a man obsessed, just over compressing everything. I was just squishing the life out of my mixes, and then they ended up sounding flat and lifeless. Groove disappeared, energy disappeared. Yeah, and just sounded flat. So now I'm only compressing when I need to, MIDI notes that I can use velocity on to change. I don't have to always draw for a compressor, but sometimes I will because of the tone of the compressor, or maybe a bit of saturation from the compressor, color. So mistake number 3 is removing all resonances. So guilty of this. So I'd get a vocal or something and I'd hear a sound in it that I didn't really like, and I was doing the whole sweeping through thing. And when you're sweeping through, you're pretty much gonna hear resonances from the narrow cue that you're making. So I end up notching out too many frequencies, and especially on the vocals, and it just sounded awful. Didn't sound like the original, and not just being down to me. Sometimes I would get some vocals where I felt like it really needed that because the recordings were bad. But I'm not trying to blame the artist, it's just my EQ choices, and yeah, just trying to pull out every resonance. So what I do now, instead of sweeping through, I try to listen to where I think the known frequency is coming from. So it could be some boxiness, it could be a bit of high mids, a bit of shrillness. And instead of sweeping through, I'll just pick a frequency, do a little sweep, see how that sound, and then just notch that out. And then I'll A/B it to see if it's made a difference or it's the sound that I'm looking for. And that seems to work a lot better. So mistake number 4 is believing that all bass needs to be mono, straight down the middle. There is some truth to that, and I think it goes back to when music was being cut to vinyl and bass being monos. I don't really know the full history on that. I need to do some more research.
And cut them for vinyl. I think there's certain things you really want to avoid. You want to avoid stereo bass. There's a reason why all these old classic records have the bass in the middle. It's because the cutting stylus will try to cut in 4 directions at the same time if you've got stereo bass, because you've got this groove and that groove, and then you've got the lateral thing as well for the frequencies.
Yeah, just believing that bass always has to be down the middle. Doesn't. You can have the sub bass down the middle, and then you can maybe have another instrument or the same instrument an octave higher and just spread it out a bit. And I've been doing that with my mixes lately, a lot lately, using Ozone Imager, and that it just feels and sounds nice to me. And when it's collapsed to mono, it still sounds good. There's no like phase issues or anything to make the sound bad, the mix sound bad. But I really do like that because it feels like it just opens up a space for the kick to punch through the middle. And yeah, it just sounds good. I like it. So that's mistake number 4, believing that bass needs to be mono. So mistake number 5, it's not really a mistake, it's more of an awareness thing. But it'd be a case of, I'd watch a video of an engineer and his mix sounds incredible and he's just using all these different plugins that I haven't got. So then I feel like I need them to use them plugins without realizing I've got similar plugins that I can use. So I don't need to go out there and get more plugins. And that's shiny object syndrome, thinking that's the plugin I'm missing for the missing piece of the puzzle. And that's not always the case. You've got some plugins there already in your toolbox that you can just use, get used to, and create some amazing mixes. So don't just copy what you see online. Train your ears, experiment, and make decisions based on what the song needs. That's how you really level up. So those are some of the mistakes that I made blindly following tutorials on YouTube. And like I said, there's some amazing creators out there that are giving you some real good gems for us to get better at our mixing. Like you, I'm still learning, always open to learning new tricks and stuff to make my mixes sound better. If there's any mistakes that you've made by listening to someone on YouTube or saw on a forum, drop a comment below. I'd like to hear it. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on future content. Appreciate you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.